Hey y'all, it's Cam.
Hey y'all, it's Desinae.
Hey, it's Jada.
Hey y'all, it's Jay, and you're listening to Four Deep, a podcast with four Black women in their 20-somethings who aren't afraid to get deep with it.
Go ahead and follow us on IG at 4D Pod. If you're listening to us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, don't forget to rate us 5 stars. And if you're watching us on YouTube, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and turn on your post notifications so y'all can get deep with us every other Friday.
Yes.
And make sure that y'all are letting us know what you think of each episode on the scale from 1 to 4D. We got a Spotify poll that y'all can use. We have our DMs, we have our comments. We love to hear from y'all, so let us know what you think. But today I could tell y'all that I already know what y'all are going to say today. Today definitely going to be a 4D.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
4.5.
This one is hitting hard. Are y'all ready for the title? Actually, y'all already know the title. That's why you clicked on this video. Okay. But at this time, we are talking about being raised in love versus being raised in survival. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
When I heard the topic, I was going to cry. So it already got 40 in the brain.
All right, so I'm going to kick us off with the quad quote thing. We can get right into it. So we chose a quote that came from Bell Hooks' book, All About Love. And she quoted somebody else in the book, but here it says, to truly love, we must learn to mix various ingredients: care, affection, recognition, respect, commitment, and trust, as well as open and honest communication. How did that leave y'all feeling?
Sound about right.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely, as soon as I heard honest and open communication, it really took me back.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't even say, okay, so basically, I feel like as children, in the Black community, we couldn't be open and honest. There was no open and honest communication, going back and forth with your parents. It was don't talk back. It was as simple as that. You know what I'm saying? Like your parents tell you something and it's don't talk back. And when things like that happen, automatically you feel like, oh, okay, my side of the story doesn't matter, or okay, my feelings don't matter. Oh, what I have to say doesn't matter. And that alone will just make you feel not unseen. That's not the word.
Like
But
invalidated?
exactly. Yeah, it makes you feel unvalidated.
Misunderstood.
Exactly. And it goes, and I feel like it's also, it just goes both ways. Like if your parents tell you something and then you try to ask them why, and they're like, oh, don't worry about it. Or, what I'm saying, they don't tell you why. And I feel like that's a part of being open and honest too. So when you just think about communication, if you've ever grown up in a child in a household where as a child there wasn't necessarily always open and honest communication, that right there is automatically going to impact the way you're being raised. It's automatically going to impact, your level of validation, and you maybe potentially needing it from others in the future. Um, it'll affect you in a lot of ways. So the open and honest communication really, really struck me quick because I know for sure, like there was no talking back. You know what I'm saying? If your parents didn't want to give you the true answer to something, it was go stay in the child's place, or my kids, get out of grown folks' business, whatever the case may be. And definitely left me personally feeling, unvalidated, or yeah, like what I had to say didn't matter, or me understanding what's going on in my household didn't really matter. And I do know that has impacted me now. So yeah, that open and honest communication, it does need to be there for you to feel loved for real.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, girl.
Even the term don't talk back, it's just like shut up, period. Like
that's
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
just thinking about like just don't talk back. Like I'm just talking at you at that point. It's not a conversation. And they made it known, like, dang, like, yeah.
It don't matter
like
what
there's
you
no
gotta
room
say
for
right now. It doesn't matter.
conversation.
Not at all.
Yeah. Like it's one
I
thing
think that
to
kind of,
have her go ahead.
no, go ahead.
Yeah, like it's one thing to, be rude and be like, okay, now you're being rude and talking back and da 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 da. The term talking back, is its own thing, but like it's one thing to be rude, but to just be like, oh, like, no, don't say anything. I'm talking. just like that is wild. And it's also very interesting, like the transition of your relationship with your parents from when you're young and then when you get older. Like it's like sometimes it's like
Mhm.
a switch. Like at one moment it was like, oh, like I feel like, I can't say anything, or if I say the wrong thing, I'm gonna get in trouble, da 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 da. And then when you get older and you bring up certain things you want to have a conversation about, it's like, oh, that's all you want to talk about? Yeah, it's fine. It's like it was that easy. It's never been that
Right.
easy. And it's wild. And then also depending on like the people that you are raised by too. Because depending on who you were raised by, people have different ways that they raise you. So like with one person, it could be this kind of communication, more open or just more real and raw. And then the other communication can just be more closed and like, oh, we don't talk about this or we don't do that. So having to grow up in like different, depending on where you are, you got to change like how you act or what you say because you're also a kid, you don't want to get in trouble. It's a lot. And then it definitely affects like, okay, when you get older, you're like, oh, well, how do I communicate with people? How do I talk
Mhm.
about this, or
Yeah.
how do I bring this up? Should I be feeling this way? And usually at that point it's like, well, if I've been silent all this time, I'm just not gonna say nothing at all. And then it's like, what do you do with that?
Mhm.
So, yeah.
I will say not everybody will get it right, as parents. I know I'm not gonna get it
Hmm.
right. So there's
Yeah.
definitely like some points. So like when we say raised in love, we're definitely not talking about perfection at all.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
but being raised in love is really just like having that support, having that nurturing, and having that like fulfilling upbringing of being secure. Like being raised
Yeah.
in love leads to security. And I feel like being raised in survival just leads to insecurity, basically. Feelings of
Mm.
being not secure. And that can lead to a couple different things, you know what I'm saying? Like you
Mhm.
can either then grow up feeling a lot of unforgiveness, a lot of resentment, a lot of
Mm.
confusion, a lot of like feelings of having to prove your worth or like earn
Mm-hmm.
love because it was not just given to you. So you feel like it's something that you have to earn. And that itself is just toxic. And it
Mhm.
really, really shows up in the way that you just present yourself, no matter what space you're in.
Mm.
And so all these things and how, like you were saying, Jada, like how being what your experiences growing up, it transforms into your attachment style as an
Mm.
adult.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that secure attachment style is something that like when I was learning about this in school, I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I wish I had that. Like, because I immediately knew I did not have that. I was like, oh yeah, that ain't me.
Mm-hmm.
Like that ain't me. And I was
Mhm.
like trying to then fit myself in the other ones. Whether it's what is it, like anxious, ambivalent, and avoidant and disorganized, something like that.
Mm.
And I'm just like, wow, like this is actually really crazy. And I had to unpack that, and reading some books, growing up has definitely helped. And we were talking about some of those. Um, so it's just, yeah, it's just really wild how you have to truly think about these things. And when the relationship, like when you do become an adult and you start looking at how your parents were, you can start understanding adult mindsets. And then you're like,
Yeah.
okay, hold up. Like, I get you, or I understand why you did that, but it still wasn't right. Or like, I get why you made that
Mhm.
decision, but it still really affected me because my child brain processed it this way. And even though I'm an
Mm.
adult now, I still feel the feelings of my child brain processing it.
Hmm.
So yeah,
That's the
it's a
root.
lot.
That's the root.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Because I get you now, but my child brain was not processing it like
No.
you told
And
me
then if
don't talk back. My child mind said, "Oh, it doesn't matter. Oh, my feelings don't matter.
mm-hmm.
Oh, guess it doesn't matter.
And then you
Guess I
internalize
won't talk back."
that.
Mm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's crazy.
And that's what honestly made me, when I was looking at this quote, recognition stood out to me because it's like if you think of
Mm.
as a child and being shut down like that, almost in a way, it's like are parents recognizing like the personhood that their child has? You know what I mean? Like, despite the fact that they're a minor, despite the fact that they're, fresh in this world trying to figure things out, they're still a person who is going to carry these things that you instill in them while they're
Mm-hmm.
young, well into their adulthood. And again, like how you were saying, Jada, like there isn't a perfect recipe to parenting, but
Mm-hmm.
self-reflection as a parent is so important because it's like sometimes you have to realize that like the way you said something shouldn't have been said that way. And it's okay to go back to your child and apologize. I think
Yeah.
also too, like in the Black community, there's a hierarchy. It's the elders and the kids. And
And
the kids
sorry
are
does not
wrong,
get thrown
but it's
around.
never the elder. But the elders are never wrong towards the kids, and that's the problem. There has to
Yeah.
be a protection, security, you know, in childhood, and I think that comes with recognition. Both recognition within oneself is like, okay, the way I'm operating and moving isn't in love, and then also recognizing that kids have like they deserve respect too. They deserve decency, and
Yes.
like it'll definitely show up in their lives later on when it's not like that, when that's not the foundation that's created for them.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, really? And yeah, going to into recognition. And Jada, I think you said something about earning love and feeling like you have to earn love. I feel like there are certain things that kids do that they get praised for, and
Mm-hmm.
then certain things that they don't get praised for that they should get praised for. Like for example,
Mm.
you should get praised for simply just being you, or you know what I'm saying? Like you shouldn't always, because that's how it leads to um not getting that type of stuff is what leads to feeling like you have to earn love. Like, oh, you only get praised because you got good grades. Or oh, you only got praised because you were able to watch your siblings and nothing happened when your parents wanted to go out. Or you know what I'm saying? You only get praised when you perform.
Mm.
And that's what makes people feel like they have to earn love. And that's gonna lead to people pleasing. That's going to lead to perfectionism.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to lead to, overachievement because you want to get that love and you feel like you have to do this in order to get that. And I feel like parents need to really take a look at what you're praising your kids for. You know what I'm saying? And make sure that they know that, I don't love you because you get good grades, just because you get good grades, or, I don't love you just because you could do this or that. Like, I love you simply for being yourself, and always know that you're
Mm.
going to be loved for just being you. You could be doing nothing else in this world but just being you, and I would still love you. And that's what's going to lead to a real deep sense of
Yeah.
security rather than insecurity, and
Mm-hmm.
feeling as though, and well, not even feeling as though, but knowing that just
Mhm.
being you brings value, that you don't have to be doing something for somebody. That you don't have to be performing at a super high level in something just to receive love. Because yeah, that will lead to me myself, I'm a overachiever, perfectionist, people pleaser. Well, I used to be a people pleaser, like real bad. And it was because I felt like I had to do the right thing, or I had to do this, I had to perform at a high level just to get
Mm-hmm.
just to get some love. Um, so yeah. So yeah, that's like another thing that I feel like, yeah, if that's a missing element and
Mm-hmm.
kind of contributes to being raised in survival mode.
Yeah. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
You you touched on some stuff, Des. Oh, child. Oh, child. You're right. And I think the thing with me is that like I was forced. Okay, let me not. That's strong. I was inherently placed in the role of having to grow up
Mm.
faster than I needed um by being, the oldest sibling with young parents. It just happens, and I understand that. But I felt like I was at that point like a high achiever, and I wasn't necessarily praised for the fact that I had to step into that and like highly perform. And then the fact that now I'm like my highly perform is like my base level now, and then I have to go above that, and that's the part that like gets me, just to be able to
Girl,
get recognition. So a lot of people be like, Jada, you're doing amazing, but I'm like, this is what I'm
bro,
supposed to do. Like
Bro.
And it's just like it set my zero at a very, which is not like bad, but it's
It
like
has its pros and cons.
it has its pros and cons. Exactly. And that's just, yeah, it was just crazy to really think about, Des, when you're saying
Yeah.
that, about like just being praised for who you are. Because I felt like I had to put on this identity,
Mm-hmm.
because I got so much praise in just this one area, and that was it. And I'm like, I had to
Girl.
break that,
Mm,
bad.
mhm,
Bad,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think it's
mm.
about time. What we say? We step into the confessional. Let me walk up in there. Because yeah, heavy on that. And I think I referenced part of this in another episode. But growing up, I definitely, was a child who always got good grades. I mean, everybody in my family knows that's what's going on over here. Big brain, straight A's, all that good stuff. And in the more recent years, being in college, coming towards the end of college, and to now, I've had to like figure out like, okay, what do I want to do? And like, if I do this, is this going to be enough? Like, am I still serving
Mm,
up to the standard that, people are expecting of me? Like, like, oh, maybe I don't want to do this anymore. Am I going to be letting people down because this is who I feel like I am to them, or they're expecting me to do this? Because when you realize what you get rewarded for, it seems like if you stop or you cut back on that certain thing, then no one's going to be
mm,
happy or proud of you anymore. And so I remember one time, I think maybe it was when I was getting close to graduation, my uncle, it was so random, but God was speaking through him that day for sure. It was like we was at a family gathering. I don't know if he was leaving, coming in, something, but it was a group of us, and then we ended up being face to face. And he was like, "I just want to let you know that we're proud of you, regardless of what you do. Like what you're doing is enough, is more than enough, and that we're gonna be proud no matter what." And it was just
Wow.
like I'm like, mind you, this was not like a deep family setting. This is like everybody at the house, he can da da da. He just hit me with this bomb, and I'm like, you want me to start crying in the middle of the kitchen right now? For real? And so it like that really just hit so bad because it really is that. And it's not even the fact like it's like, oh, I don't feel loved, or oh, I don't think da da da. Because when you take a step back, it's like okay, but it's that feeling like we mentioned, like you grow up with that feeling. So of course now I understand that it wasn't that now that I'm older, but that feeling still resided. And so yeah,
You just
having
need
to
to
really
hear
like,
it sometimes.
Yeah.
yes,
You need the
exactly.
reassurance.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's so real. Like just hearing that, like I hold on to that now, like, they're gonna
Yeah.
be proud. And now it made it real. It made it more believable. Cause now I'm just like, yeah, duh. Like, but hearing it really helped with that. So
Yeah.
yeah, that was that was it. And then the book, The Four Agreements, is a really good book, and it's such a easy read. Small pages. They talk about that too, about like what you're being rewarded for and what people usually get rewarded for, and how that impacts you as you're developing into, your own self. And then as you do that, it's like the person you're developing in is someone who has these rules already set in their brain. Like,
Mm,
this is what I need to do. This means good. If I do this, I'll get a reward for it. And it's like, as humans, we're constantly searching for that reward, or for someone to be like, good job, or you're doing great, or da 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 da. But it's like, who are them to tell you good job? Because they got their own set of rules in their head. And the notion is really just like letting go of those rules. So when you're making your decisions on how you feel like you want to do, you don't feel like, oh, like, is this a good thing? You're like, oh, this is just what I want to do. And I'm
Yeah.
happy.
mhm.
Like the whole
You gotta break the
reward.
rules.
Gotta
And
break
it
them
ain't
rules.
easy. It ain't easy. Even realizing there are rules to be broken is
Exactly.
Yeah. Wow. Wow.
the whole thing. Yeah.
That's
Mhm, mhm.
And the transformation, like for all my people who are raised in survival, and honestly, I feel like we don't even have to give it like a concrete definition.
Mm-mm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
For all the people that were raised in survival, the transition from being raised in survival to then living and walking in love, that is something that is very, very hard to navigate because you don't have anybody holding your hand through that, usually, unless it's like a therapist or like really great friends or, God,
Right.
because that's who did it for me, baby. I'll tell you that. Okay. And just how you're saying, Jada, like, your uncle said this, but the fact that you even recognize that God was probably speaking through him is the main key there too, because God is the one that is going to be able to one display what true love is for real, because God is love, and then two, it's an example, and he gives us the affirmation throughout the Bible. Just even him giving his son to be sent on the cross for our sins because he loved us that much. Like there's so much affirmation, and so like I feel like God knew that majority of us were going to be raised in survival, and he gave us this love letter. He gave us these things in order for us to pick it up, read it, internalize that. And that's why it says come to the word of God as a child, because you have to get back to that point for you to then start internalizing these things that are healthy. And you have to go back to that point to unpack a lot of the things that you internalized that were not healthy. And so it's a lot of unlearning and relearning. And that's what I've been going through. And okay, let me just go ahead and step into the confession.
Girl, I'm gonna turn this laptop off because no, you not gonna just say all that and act like you didn't just drag us up, down,
Just
left, and right. She said, come to me
let that
as a
soak in.
child so you can internalize this real love. What?
Yeah.
And he
Yeah.
knew. He knew he was going to be in survival mode, like we've been in survival
It's
mode, which is why
written.
he wrote us this love letter.
It's written.
This
Yeah.
love letter. Did you hear that?
Yeah.
Did
Yeah.
you hear when she
Love
said
letter.
that? Child. I
Holy
digress.
Spirit, thank you. Speaking through you, girl.
Man.
Oh,
Yeah. And that's what I've been realizing. Like, that's why I've been so on this journey with God, is because I know that that's the only thing that's going to really fill these voids that I that were created by being raised in survival. Like the voids were just too big. I'm sitting there trying to like search for this stuff in intimacy, search for this stuff in drugs and other things that are trying to give me security. And then I'm attaching my identity to these things because it makes me feel more secure and more like it's just no, I had to just relearn all this stuff. So that was 2023, baby. And if I do step into the confessional, if I may, this Saturday, I went to this prayer summit, and as a lot of y'all already know, like one of my major struggles was my father and like intimacy with men. Those were like top two. And recently, God has really been speaking to me about my dad, and he was letting me know that they're connected. Right. And so I'm like, okay, I understand they're connected now. How do I heal? Like how do I get over this? Now that I understand it, what is the next point for me to heal? And I just kept praying about that because I was like, I don't understand what to do. But I was literally like, they had a prayer room. And I was thinking, I was like, I want to go to the prayer room. But then immediately was like, you don't need no prayer. What you need prayer for? Da, 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 you're good. And then 2 seconds later, my friends, it was four of us. So I'm the last one in the line, right? And they basically look down to each other. And then I'm the last one they look at and they're like, prayer room. And I said, wow. So I'm like, yep, that's a sign I need to go and get up in there. So I take my behind to that line for the prayer room. As soon as I get in there, and I didn't know what I needed prayer for. I was like, I don't need no prayer. Yeah. As soon as I sat down, she said, what do you need prayer for? And I said, my dad, I need healing with that and sexual immorality because of that. And so she started giving me her testimony, right? And she was like, how old are you? I said, I'm 24. She said, okay, by the time I was 23, I had 2 kids. And she just like went into like basically why and like how. And then she was speaking some things over me that nobody knows. And she I mean, she was speaking to things that were in me. And I was like, girl, I don't know even know where you're getting this from. But obviously it was Holy Spirit like just working through her. And she was basically saying, she was like, I know you were a daddy's girl. You have to let that go. Like you have to let that go. And she was like, but guess what? You are still a daddy's girl because you're now with God and like he's your father. And like she was speaking stuff and she was like, all of you trying to find your worth and trying to prove your worth to these men and find security in them, like you got to let it go. Like they're not attached. And she was just like, really, I'm crying. I mean, crying my eyes out. And she's like, let everything go that like happened to you as a young child that nobody knows about. And I was like, you speaking, girl. And she just like, she was basically calling everything out, breaking attachments. And I truly feel like I had a whole nother deliverance session because afterwards I felt empty in a good way. Like I felt very empty. My heart felt light as a feather. And I didn't even know it was that heavy. I did not know. Oh, I'm about to start crying. I didn't know it was that heavy until afterwards. Like I felt so light. I felt like everything that I went through didn't matter anymore. Like it was gone, gone. And like she even told me after she was like, I was not supposed to be in here. They just called me in here. And I believed I was meant to come talk to you. And I was like, you were. Because I'm like, you don't understand. Like this has been something that I've really been needing. I've been needing to break this. And she said, you're going to start walking different. You're going to start talking different. And I felt her basically kind of say, like, now you're at the point where you can start walking as the woman that God actually called you to be. Because I felt like 2023, he was really showing me a lot of myself, breaking things off and like really pruning me. And I feel like now I'm actually able to, like, I feel free enough to like just be her. I feel free enough to just do that. And she said, your no's are going to be strong. Your yes to God is going to be completely renewed and different. And she was just like speaking all this stuff over me. And I was just like, yo, like, this is crazy. So I finally feel like I healed from that. And that pain that I felt from my dad is gone. It's gone. Like, 100%. Because days before that, I was like sitting there like, I never got a birthday card from my dad. I don't even know. My stepmom sitting here like, oh, he's such a good card giver. And I'm like, I wouldn't know that. And I'm like sitting here like low key jealous about that. And then I'm telling, I'm unpacking things with my friends and I'm telling them like, my brother and sister, they're getting the dad that I wanted. But I know that I had to sacrifice him so that they could have him in that way. And I would do it over and over again just so that they could have that experience. But I sometimes just hated the fact that I had to be that sacrifice. So there was just like a lot of things that I had to unpack there with that. But I don't feel that bondage towards men like I used to. Like how I was telling y'all, I don't feel bondage towards weed no more. I don't feel bondage towards anymore. And I feel like that was one of the biggest things that needed to be broken off of me. And it's God did it. God did it.
I love that.
Nah, he was working hard on Saturday.
Yeah. We was in there for 5 hours, y'all. 5 hours. We was working.
Oh my God.
In the prayer room?
No, we were at the prayer summit. I mean, I was on my face. I was on my face in the outer aisles giving it up to God. I was crying so much that day. There were way too many different visions, way too many different words that God spoke to me. That church had me, y'all. That church had me. It was a different church. It wasn't even my church.
I love that.
I got invited
Isn't
there.
that wild how God works? Like
That was so
it's not even your church.
intentional.
It was on a Saturday.
Yeah.
Whole different church. That's wild.
That's what I'm
You
saying.
met
That's good
those
for y'all.
girls. Oh, go ahead, Des.
Oh, I was just gonna say for those of y'all who were, raised in survival, and you do have those voids and you feel those voids, and you're constantly, I want try to pay attention to the ways in which you are trying to fill those voids that are not truly serving you.
Right.
And then try to figure out a more healthier way for those voids to be filled, like Jada, you know what I'm saying? She turned to God and like, girl, just like witnessing your transformation over all this time has just been amazing. Like amazing. And so yeah, y'all really pay attention to those voids and what you're doing to fill them. And It's not gonna be easy.
Mm-hmm.
That's for sure. We do know it ain't gonna be easy. But it was never supposed to be easy. You know what I'm saying? God never, it was never supposed to
Facts.
be easy. So start looking into, I feel like that's like the first, you know what I'm saying? Like the first step is kind of looking at, okay, if I know I was raised in survival, because I'm sure those of you who were raised in survival know that. You know that you were. Start looking at what kind of voice those left. Start looking at kind of like your unhealthy habits or like things that you know are not good for you, but you do them anyway. Because we all know what things are not good for us that we do anyway. And ask
Mhm.
yourself, well, if I know it's not good for me, then why am I doing it?
That why. That's exactly what it is.
Gotta get to the why.
Gotta get to the why. And ask yourself 3 times. Don't settle for your first answer. Don't.
But you're gonna try to tell yourself a
Fact.
cute little lie, so you ain't got to get deeper.
Yeah.
And
But
then fix
listen,
that little issue that you was trying to say was the reason, and then it's still there.
mhm. And that's one of the things too that Bell Hooks was talking about. This is me, low-key giving y'all a rec because I'm reading all about love right now. But she talks about how love is what heals the wounds that the lack of love in your life has left. And so it's like it really, with Jada talking about her story and how we know that God is the ultimate form of love. He is love. There is no more perfect form than that. It just makes sense with what Bell Hook says to what you've experienced. It's just more of a testimony that, like, whatever wounds that you carry from your childhood, God is here to wipe all of that away. God is here to give you the fresh slate. God is here to be the example of what it is that you should accept and demand in your life. Yeah, I just yeah.
I just want to go in my room and curl up and just let it
Yeah.
Not curl up.
Yeah.
curl up and just ball my eyes out and just let it all out right now. Like,
Yeah. You should. I recommend.
Mm.
And when you start realizing it, yeah, like process it. Des said something about this in a couple of the episodes. Like the only way to get through it is to really let yourself feel them feelings. Quote Des.
Yep.
For
Yeah.
sure. For sure. So don't be afraid to sit in that room, cry it out. Because baby, that is actually a sign of deliverance. You have to physically release that. What's that? The stress cycle? You gotta complete the stress cycle, baby.
Yes.
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 Don't let that physical, you know what I'm saying, action come out. So definitely don't be afraid of
release.
that. Don't be afraid of that.
and I also learned to, I feel like it's crazy because like when you're in survival mode, I feel like that's what leads to you having like a lack of self-love. So I also feel like people who are, on your journey to self-love and, trying to figure out what it means to like love yourself, and stuff like that. Or even if you're not on a journey to learn how to love yourself, I definitely believe that is a journey that you need to start looking into. Because when you do love yourself, when you do, feel those voids, let's say you turn to God and God has, filled you up with love. When you start to love yourself, you don't do the things that are not good for you. Naturally, you just won't because you love yourself that much. Like, oh, I love my body. I'm gonna treat my body like a temple. I don't want to smoke weed every single day, or I don't want to, drink liquor and get drunk every weekend, or I don't want to use sex to feel this. What I don't feel like these men deserve my body in that way if they're not, showing me true love, or whatever the case may be. When you get on that journey and you do truly love yourself, you will stop doing a lot of those things. And I feel like that's kind of how you know that you're there or that you're getting there is when, when you get into feeling those voids and you're getting to loving yourself and you're getting to opening yourself up to that love from God. The way that you love yourself starts to be different and it's automatic. Because right now, for me personally, me working on my self-love journey, it feels hard. There are certain things that I do still do that I know are not good for me. I know they're not good for me, but I don't have the strength to stop myself from doing them because I'm using them as like a crutch. I'm using them as a vice.
Yeah.
But you gotta love yourself enough to fight that vice. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Love will give you the strength to fight off those vices, to fight off those negative things. And it's so crazy because like it's all about love, like love from God, love from yourself, you know, filling the voice where love was not given. It's really all about love.
Wow. I'm about to hit y'all with a quad quote. There was a quote that said, I feel like I choke every time. No, but there was a quote that basically said, like, it's not about you, like, don't focus on you stopping a sin, like, focus on loving God. And when you do, you're going to love yourself enough to have his desires become your desires naturally. Like, so like you're saying, it's automatic. So like when
Yeah.
people are like, oh, I need to get myself together before I go to God. No, 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 no. You go to God and then his desires become your desires because you love him and you're understanding how much you are loved, how much you are valuable. And then you're like, dang it, I don't even want that no more. Des is saying it's very true. It is very, very true. Because I was going to God and guess what I was doing? Smoking weed every day. And sure enough, he changed my desire on it. And that's just it, you know. So don't feel like you have to be perfect just to that's again that mindset of feeling like you have to be worthy enough
Yep.
to even go get God's love. No, no, no. It's already there. It's already there. It's already there. Yeah, y'all.
Wow.
That's what I'm saying. Like now that it just got me thinking, like I feel like I'm reading All About Love by Bell Hooks all over again. But now I'm just like sitting and just thinking about like, well, dang, you know, was I really raised in love? Dang, like what more voice do I need to feel? Because you know, I felt like I was doing the inner work, but then like when I truly look at my situation, like look at the things that I am still doing that I know are not good for me, it's kind of like, well, maybe you ain't felt them yet.
Yeah. And it's a
And
growing
even when
process
Jada, when you were
too.
telling your story, yeah, girl, that's what Jada was still telling her story. I was getting so emotional,
No,
like on the
yeah.
inside, I damn near wanted to cry, and I'm thinking like, well, you ain't felt that void yet. So it's going to hit you on the inside a little bit more. Um, I don't know. It's really a self-awareness. I would say that self-awareness, because even that, like I could have just sat here and, you know, got emotional and then just let that be that. Or I could have sat here, got emotional, and then asked myself, well, damn, why do you feel so, why is this pulling at you like this? Like, why? And because I haven't felt that void, um, with my dad, like literally, yeah, like with my dad. So it's just like the awareness. You got to use that awareness too. Because yeah, like Cam was saying off pod, like when you become aware, don't let that push you into being a victim. You know, like don't victimize it. Don't try to rationalize the way you are if you know it's not good for you. When you become aware, then you work on that. You don't become a victim. You don't use it as an excuse to, you know, be a messed up person or to keep doing this thing that you know it's not good for you. You go try to fix it. Don't victimize yourself after you become aware. You know what I'm saying?
I
It's
got
it's
another quad quote, sorry. But it does tie in. This one is by Rich Wilkerson Jr. from the book that I'm reading, Single and Secure. It says pain can be part of your story without controlling your story.
That part right there.
Yeah.
And let's talk about that more. Because it's one thing to acknowledge what you've gone through and what you went through and how it is affecting you now. But dwelling on it and using it as an excuse, now you're bringing it into the now. These are choices you're making in the present that you're pulling from the past. And so at that point, it's like, well, you really can't blame the people that, brought up these feelings in the past because you had the choice to dwell on them or learn from them or do something about it, but you chose to use it as an excuse.
yeah.
And so it's really like figuring out what direction to go in once you realize all of these things that you've been through or that you've been going through or that have affected you. And it's like, okay, now what am I going to do with it? And I think Cammy brought that up, like Bell Hooks mentioned, like victimizing yourself. when you start realizing it or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's so real. It's easy to do that. And so you really have to sit and be like, okay, what's next? How am I going to deal with this?
Mm-hmm.
Because it can really affect the people around you.
And it's heavy too, because it's like there was one like therapist I follow on Twitter, and I don't want to misgender them, but I'll just say they were saying that you have to metabolize your trauma. And I like the way that they put it when they said metabolize, because if you think about
Is
the
it
word, at
Shahem?
least from the aspect of do you know, I feel like I don't know their
I'm not
pronouns, but
sure what their pronouns are.
but metabolize, at least what I'm thinking from my, background, I know that to be is like you take it and you use it, it gets broken down, it gets used as energy, and then what isn't used or isn't useful is, you get rid of it, you excrete it.
Yeah.
So when you metabolize your trauma, you're processing it and you're breaking it down, but you either need to use it as fuel to help you redirect yourself to make healthier decisions and to, like towards yourself and towards others, and then get rid of what doesn't serve you. And they also made a point too that sometimes there is no end journey with processing trauma. Sometimes it's ongoing, sometimes it manifests in new situations. You get exposed to something you didn't know was going to trigger you. Or in my case, reading things in Bell Hooks' book that I thought I was past, I'm like looking at it now and I'm like, there's a whole other aspect to this that I didn't even consider. And now it's like we're backtracking, we're thinking about things. And like where I'm reading in All About Love right now, Bell Hooks is mostly talking about like childhood, as we've kind of been talking about in here. And she's talking about how, we learn to relate affection that we receive and care we receive to being loved. But it's possible to be in an environment where you were receiving care and you receive affection, but it is not love, because love is a willful choice. And I didn't grow up in I didn't grow up in survival. My mother did. And that shaped a lot of why the way she raised me and my brother, because she was like, the environment that I had is absolutely not going to be the environment that you guys grow up in. But there are things that happened to me in my childhood outside of my home that then shaped how I navigated relationships, again, outside of familial ones. And so reading this book was like, I didn't process that I was still a child in other aspects when I was involved in certain relationships. And it taught me things, because I still sought affection from friends or people that I liked, be it, like I wanted these people to be my friends, or maybe I liked them in a romantic sense. I still associated affection and care that they showed me as like, okay, so this is what love is supposed to be. And then that became the standard in future relationships. And then having to unlearn that, and then also realize that there's still some things that I'm still unlearning. It was like, okay, all right, Bill, it's only chapter 2.
All right, Bill.
All right, like wrap it up. But that's the whole thing. I'm like, okay, now what do I do with all this? Now that I know this, what do I do with this? Because there was something else that Shaheem, they said that people pleasing can be manipulative even though you don't mean it to be. And there's a lot of things that we do out of response from trauma and from our ways that we learn to survive that are a mechanism of manipulation, even though we don't mean harm. And that got some people's feathers ruffled. But they were talking to me because I'm like, my people pleasing was a little bit manipulative. It was.
Yeah.
And I thought I was so keen to being the one who was manipulated that I'm like, oh no, I would never do that to anybody.
I'm finna walk out. I'm finna walk out right now.
So yeah, you really, really have to, and with my recommendation with All About Love, you have to be prepared to metabolize. You can't sit and dwell and ruminate in everything that's going to get brought up. Take your time reading this. Desinae had to put it down. I had to put it down. This book is about to be overdue because it's due back on Wednesday, and I'm not ready to turn it back into the library just yet. I'm not.
It's gonna be like a therapy session, so be ready for that.
And also be ready. You need to talk about it. I
Mm.
know that part, the vulnerability part is like, it's a lot, but you have to be able to talk about this with somebody, even if you're talking about it out loud to yourself and you journal about it, you have to get it out, because it's like, again, this is a lot to read, to uncover, and then yeah,
Now
but
we need
it's
to bring the
good.
book club back.
That's
No,
good.
because for real. Because for
It's been
real.
good.
But you
Oh
know, you're
goodness.
right though, because after I read like the first 2 chapters, I journaled about it a little bit, and I read chapter 3, and I did not journal after that. But because I did not journal after that, I
You
could
didn't go
not go
back.
back to it. I didn't get what I just
Mm.
took in. I didn't get it out in any way. I didn't,
Mm.
because I was, when you journal about it, not you. Best believe you could be able to apply something out of them couple chapters into your life,
Okay.
and everybody,
Yeah.
okay. And I didn't journal that time, and I just couldn't pick the book back up. I said I can't handle this right now,
You didn't release it.
and that's because I didn't get it out.
Yep. I
Wow.
remember the exact page that I closed the book on. I said I literally started crying and had to close the book. I said, that's enough for today, Bill.
Mhm.
Right. I'm good.
Mhm.
I'm
Let me
good.
Because
grab
you're in my
my
house now, and I don't need y'all right
Yo,
now.
oh yeah.
You might
I need
release
you
This is
to
all up in my house.
Oh my.
Mm.
Oh my
It's her
goodness.
house.
Whew. Y'all, this episode.
What's I gonna do?
I have I have some affirmations.
Okay.
Wait, let me see. I gotta say it.
Dear God, Daniel, I need to write it down.
Yeah, y'all need to go ahead and stick this to your mirror. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So this also comes out of the book Single and Secure, and by Rich Wilkerson Jr. But it said, no one else can fix you because you're not broken. No one else can give you what you're missing because you're complete. No one else can save you because Jesus did that already. No one else can tell you what to do because God is the one leading you. And no one else can define you because you were made in God's image, not theirs. Yeah.
I need you to drop that in the.
And will.
Yeah, we need that one.
Yeah.
No one else can save you because Jesus already did that.
Yeah.
And nobody can tell you what to do
Mm-hmm.
because
God
He's
is
the one leading you.
It was the no one else can define you because you were made in God's image, not theirs. That's
These people don't know you.
They so dumb.
And I'm gonna call Richard right now because
yeah. Yeah. He ate with that one too. I was like, ooh.
play clean.
I said that. And we really are looking for like saviors in all these other things to save us
Like,
from it.
oh
Jesus
my
already did.
gosh.
That's what I'm saying. Stop tugging at my heartstrings.
I'm gonna share
This
some
is
stuff with y'all
multiple
offline.
levels.
It is. It's levels
is.
to it. But that's why we're gonna do this topic justice and come back with a part 2.
Yes. Because
Yes.
baby,
Yeah.
one
We have
episode
to.
is not enough.
Now I can't wait to do part 2, good. But I need to go journal about this one first so I can.
Yeah.
Yes, we gotta unpack this one
We
fully.
gotta unpack this one. We
Yes.
gotta.
Yes.
Woo.
Most definitely.
Wow. We should have put a trigger warning on the slap of this.
I was just thinking that we could
You
we
know?
could edit it
Yeah, we
Yeah.
need to.
Listen.
Yeah.
If you're not ready to do the work, don't listen. Okay.
For real.
Not
For
ready to
real.
hear it. Don't listen. Like,
we ain't even we didn't even talk about doing the work. We just acknowledge the work that needs to be done.
Exactly.
I'm tired of y'all dragging me every other Friday or every other week. I really am. I really am.
hey, we 4D, baby. This is what we
Right.
about.
No,
The things coming
I'm
hard,
so-
okay?
Right.
I'm
What
so
y'all
happy we have this
give today?
space.
No, yeah.
Girl, like I'm so grateful because just to think that this and everything is really just divine timing and the divine plan, because how we came together and this has been blowing my mind lately. Like seeing plans play out or come full circle has really been hidden for me lately. And just seeing how we came together, how this came about, and just knowing like, I don't know, maybe I would have had this conversation with someone or thought about it, but just knowing that we had this space, and then like I would have probably been sitting in my bed right now watching TV, scrolling on Instagram, but I'm here right now listening to these gems that are being dropped that I need to apply and work on and learn on. So I'm just so grateful. And I'm gonna have to give this one 4.5.
Oh yeah.
Child.
Yeah. It was there. I dare somebody to say anything less than a 4.
That's just a hater.
Yeah, at that point.
That's somebody that's not ready to face the facts.
That right there.
Because we've all, whether it's been in our childhood, whether it's been outside of our families, whether it's been people who are family adjacent, we have all been in experiences where we thought we were in love, but we just were receiving care or affection or pleasure from somebody who was not invested in giving all those other ingredients that we talked about in the first quad quote we gave. Care, affection, recognition, respect, commitment, trust, open and honest communication. If you're not getting all of those, and if you want to go to a biblical standpoint, we have a definition of love to refer to there too.
Come on.
If the love that you think you are receiving from somebody does not align to any definition that is truly, truly love, it's not that. It's survival or it's abuse. But love cannot coexist within the two.
Girl, shut up.
You need to cool off. You need to cool
Shut
off.
up.
And that's what hit me in my chest on page
That's why you
7.
closed that book?
That's why I closed the book on page
I
7.
I would have closed the book. I wouldn't have even
When
finished
she
the
said-
sentence.
That was it. And then she got real personal. We're going to get into it next week. She got like she started reading me my life.
Oh,
I said, "Oh, sister,
That's
sister hooks,
Sister Hooks.
sister hooks."
Wow.
Woo! Yeah. I'm gonna have
We
to
all
rewatch
deserve
it.
love.
Yeah, man. You're worth it. You were already worth it. Like, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to prove it to nobody.
Nope.
You don't have to seek for it. It's already within you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, man.
All right, we gonna head out, bro.
Listen.
We will see y'all next in 2 weeks. So please gather yourselves
Yes.
for part 2, because we're gonna need some gathering.
We're gonna need some gathering.
And let us know what you think. Tell us your rating. Show us some love. Like hard, because we want to
Real
make sure
love.
this message gets out to other people as well. Real love.
Yeah, share
love,
with
okay?
the people in your life who you feel
Yeah.
Need to hear a good message, a good drag.
A good drag.
Oh.
I need a debrief. Ooh, off pod gonna be crazy.
Oh, all right, y'all. We will see y'all in 2
In part 2.
weeks.
Two.
Bye.